my name is Julie, and I'm here to talk to you about anorexia nervosa. So that begs to ask the question, what exactly is anorexia nervosa? So according to the National Eating Disorder Association, anorexia nervosa, more commonly referred to as just anorexia, is an eating disorder whereby people suffering have difficulties maintaining an appropriate weight for their stature, they experience frequent weight loss, and often have a distorted perception of their body image. So when we read that definition, we can probably think of a few people in our lives who come to mind, because as we recognize, our society today is very image obsessed, is very focused on the ideal and perfectionism. So we need to recognize, when is it anorexia and when is it wanting to look like a movie star? So here are some very common signs and symptoms that people who experience anorexia nervosa have. So anorexia presents differently from person to person, but some common signs and symptoms can include not eating enough, resulting in being underweight, where their self-esteem is based solely on their physical appearance and no other skills or qualities that they possess as a person. Women no longer experience a menstrual period, hair loss, irregular heartbeat, denying hunger even when it is present, and putting themselves through rigorous and extreme diet and exercise regimes. So when we talk about anorexia nervosa, we need to recognize that it does not discriminate. Anorexia can affect anybody at any age, race, ethnicity, geographical location. Anorexia can affect you. However, we do recognize that it's more commonly noticed in young adolescents. We can start to see this in the prepubescent stage, going all the way through adolescence into early adulthood. And because of its onset, and because people dismiss teenagers, some people think it's just young people being young, wanting to look like the superstars and dealing with the obvious hormones and changes that your body goes through. However, we need to really address how serious anorexia is. Sometimes anorexia, which is a serious and complex illness, can be dismissed as trivial worries about appearance. These are a few facts from Statistics Canada highlighting anorexia's seriousness as a medical problem. At some point during anorexia nervosa, over 50% of individuals will develop bulimic symptoms. So bulimic symptoms include purging. That's where when somebody has eaten a meal, they will then force themselves to throw up so that they will not absorb anything from that meal and they will not be affected by the calorie intake. There's a lot of reasons to be concerned about that. We're not getting our nutritional needs met. Plus, that's not a pleasant feeling in itself, and it must hurt quite a bit. An estimated 5 to 20% of people will eventually die due to health complications that come from anorexia nervosa. Obviously, this is serious. When people are dying due to this illness, we need to take action. And this is because the body is not getting what it needs. It's not lacking its nutritional demands. It has electrolyte imbalances, mineral imbalances, and eventually all the energy you require for your metabolic functions to happen, you just don't have, and your body starts to shut down. It's a very sad, sad illness. Lastly, many individuals with anorexia are in denial of their illness, and help is frequently sought out by concerned family members and loved ones. So with mental illness, it's difficult. Nobody wants to admit they have a problem, and it can be hard to identify the problem in yourself. And anorexia has a lot of different complex factors. So as healthcare professionals in the community, we need to look at how can we best manage this? How can we help the physical manifestations and the root, which may be psychological? How can we address both these concerns? One way we can address them is addressing vulnerability in community. So how does vulnerability and community affect people with anorexia? So according to our medical surgical nursing textbook, eating disorders are complex, involving multiple factors, a prominent one being the psychiatric component. Some data suggests as many as 600,000 to 900,000 Canadians meet the diagnostic criteria for possessing an eating disorder. And when treating an eating disorder, there needs to be multiple factors. We need to treat all roots of the problem. We need to treat the psychiatric root. We need to get nutrition into their system. So when we're in the community, we need to figure out how can we understand them best to help them. And that comes to the vulnerability of the illness. When we talk about illness vulnerability, we as healthcare professionals need to be aware of people's personal experiences and how they impact the illness itself and the healing process. So some important questions we should ask to understand their vulnerability is, how do they define their illness? Is it a fear of food? Is it a fear of gaining weight? Becoming undesirable? By getting to the root of the problem, we will understand the illness from their perspective. By doing this, this allows us to understand the uniqueness of the client and not just the definition of an illness. And when we're finding out all of these vulnerabilities and these little factors, we need to ask questions about their environments, work, school, their role in the family, their past. Have they been brought up in a way where image is important? In the past, were they obese? And now, due to this, they are afraid of gaining weight again. Are they in an environment where they feel constantly compared to others, such as modeling? These are all really important questions for us to ask to get a unique understanding and understand the perspective this client has and how their experience affects their illness. We need to understand their relationships. We need to understand, do they feel valued? Do they feel valued in these relationships? Is the lack of value contributing to why they are not taking care of themselves, why they feel they need to be thin? And we also should recognize that with any illness, relapse is possible. Have these people tried to get help in the past? And did they relapse? Why do we think they relapsed? Did they not feel heard when they were trying to get help the first time? Did we as healthcare professionals miss an integral part of their story that's going to help us help them in their healing journey? So it's important to understand a client's personal perspective because these personal experiences impact the illness. Once we have a good understanding of their personal experience, we as community health nurses need to think, how can the community impact those people who are dealing with anorexia and working to heal? This can involve so many things. This can involve accessibility, especially for youth. We need to think of where these resources are and how can they access them. Are these resources on the web? Are they in schools or community centers? Are they free? If there is a cost, what is that cost? We need to assess their environment. Do they have a good support system? Is their family supporting them? Do they have friends that they can lean on? We need to look into the idea of talk therapy. Can we help them get the right counseling they need and meet the right counselor to help facilitate that healing process. We need to recognize that we live in a society with social pressures, and how can we help them navigate that? How can we as community healthcare professionals help them navigate the new world of technology and media, and how those things play such an integral part into how we perceive ourselves, and for those people with anorexia, how they perceive their illness. It's so important for us to take their perspective and bring community into it. When we can bond those things together, the healing process can be that much better, and hopefully people will find the help they really need. Thank you so much for listening to me, and hopefully this will help you help those with anorexia.